with our Pledge of Allegiance, and I'm very thrilled to have for our invocation this evening a preacher from my church, Grace Church. Keith Carlson is with us this evening. So if Keith, if you would, following our pledge, lead us in a prayer, we would be very grateful. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let's pray. God, we come before you tonight wanting to pause for a moment as we recognize who you are. Thank you for being sovereign over this universe. Thank you for being the provider and sustainer of life. Thank you for watching over this community in which we live. We do want to thank you for the abundant resources that you've given to us in this community, from the rich earth that you've given to us, to the businesses, to the beautiful homes that you've given to us. It is indeed a good community in which to live, and so thank you for that. God, we pray that you would guide us tonight, guide the conversation tonight, give our counsel wisdom, give them ears to hear and eyes to see what you are doing in our midst. I pray that even tonight you would guide us in a way that brings us together as a community and even as a model of healing the divides that are in our country. And so we pray that you'd be with us tonight, and thank you for who you are. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Thank you so much. President Nate, you're all set?
Thank you very much. Clerk, please call roll and those present.
Janae,
Here.
Chuck Lehman,
Here.
Bob Corkay,
Here.
Steve Hoover,
Here.
Joe Edwards,
Here.
Cindy Spoljaric, Mark King.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. I would like to note that the last item on your agendas in the audience was redlined tonight, and we will not be hearing the State Road 32 INDOT interlocal agreement tonight. Moving on, the next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes for September 10th, 2018. Can I have a motion, please?
Move to approve the minutes of September 10th as presented.
Thank you, Steve. Is there a second?
Second.
A second by Joe Edwards. Any discussion, additions, or corrections to be noted? Hearing none, I'd ask you to approve the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0. Minutes are approved. Follow the same procedure for claims. You've had a chance to review the claims tonight. I'd entertain a motion to approve the claims as stated.
Move to approve claims.
Thank you. I have a motion before us by Dr. Mark Keene. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Horkay. Are there any additions, corrections, questions? All right. Hearing none, I'd ask for a voice vote. Please signify by saying aye to approve claims as stated. Aye. Opposed? Same sign. The minutes, or the claims are approved tonight, 6-0. Thank you. There are no special miscellaneous business items on the agenda for tonight, so we'll move into old business. First item under old business is up for adoption consideration tonight, and it is the Wheeler Landing PUD Ordinance 18-04 with Caleb Ernest presenting. Thank you.
Thank you, President. Good evening, members of the council. For the record, Caleb Ernest with the Economic and Community Development Department. The item presented before you is the planned unit development being called Wheeler Landing PUD District. The area is approximately 321 acres and is currently zoned agricultural, single-family, and enclosed industrial. The area is located north of State Road 32 and west of Wheeler Road, just east of Spring Mill Road. The PUD proposes a change in zoning from AGSF1 and EI districts to the Wheeler Landing PUD district and consists of 4 different commercial and mixed-use areas. Since the project was introduced, modifications were made to the PUD ordinance, which are covered in detail in my staff report, and I am happy to explain any of the modifications. This project was introduced to you on the February 12th City Council meeting. This project has received a public hearing on the May 7th Plan Commission meeting and received a unanimous favorable recommendation on the July 2nd Plan Commission meeting, with the condition that traffic planning for the area be resolved to the satisfaction of the city engineer and city council. This item has been addressed to the satisfaction of the city engineer. The proposal is eligible for council adoption tonight, and the petitioner is here tonight and would like to address the council, and I'm available for any questions for staff. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Caleb.
Members of the council, Eric Douthit here on behalf of the Wheeler family. I'll be very brief in my comments. We'll just add a couple of supplements to what Caleb said. First of all, thank you very much for your patience in us putting this through. I know this has been a long process, and I appreciate the cooperation of the city and staff and the administration with this. 2 small comments to make. First, as we understand, as the Wheeler family understands and appreciates, that this is subject to the finalization of a development agreement. We've worked through that development agreement with the city. We're waiting on a couple of attachments to go with it. Otherwise, I think we're in substantial agreement as to what that's going to look like. Secondly, there was some concerns and questions earlier about the possibility of working obtainable housing into this development. That is something the Wheelers are very much in favor of. They understand that obtainable housing is something that is important to the city of Westfield, that is going to benefit not just those residents, but the citizens of Westfield and their potential development partners. And they're exploring those options of how to best bring that in and have it fit into the development as a whole. I'm available for any questions with regards to anything that's going on. Also, we have Nick Churchill, who's a consultant who's helping out the family, who'd be available with any of the details of the PUD. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, council have any questions for the petitioner?
Just for the public's notice, Eric, could you just point out where the proposed YMCA is located within this development?
Certainly. Oh, wrong button. Here we go. The proposed YMCA is going to be going right here on that corner. So it's the southwest corner of what is essentially Wheeler Road and 181st Street.
Any other questions?
Is there a sign, is the development agreement signed? All issues straightened out?
In my opinion, all the issues have been straightened out. There's a missing attachment. Specifically, it's the developer guarantee that needed to be put together. I think the balance of the agreement, Mr. Bertrand and I have worked through, and we've got the language, I think, pretty much worked out. So we're just waiting on that last attachment to come from legal, and then we'll be ready to go.
So any action that we take on this tonight would be, I believe, should be contingent upon the satisfactory completion of that development agreement.
And the Wheelers acknowledge that, and they agree that that's a contingency that's part of today's issue.
You all received correspondence from Bose, McKinney, and Evans on this matter about 4 o'clock this afternoon or whenever I opened up the email. And it raises some questions as to whether there is substantial agreement or not, in my mind. Well, there may be substantial agreement, but there may be some details to work out.
Well, you've got an advantage on me, Mr. Edwards. I don't know what letter you're referring to.
So here it is.
Okay? I don't know if it's been made part of the record or not, so I don't know
I
specifically.
don't know that either. But it would seem to me that this needs to be worked out so that all parties are in agreement.
Mr. Edwards, both the city and the Wheeler family, I believe, are in agreement.
Well, there's 2 Wheeler families in this.
No, there's one Wheeler family.
Are you sure?
I'm absolutely positive. If you could enlighten me as to exactly what issue you're talking about, I'd be happy to.
You can read the letter if you wish.
Joe,
So-
I didn't get I didn't get the letter either. It was sent to my client without me. That being said, since this approval is going to be contingent on it, and the conditions that are included in the developer agreement, if it's not entered into, neither party can go forward. They're not able to develop the land without the agreement with the city, and the city's not going to authorize any approvals for the development of the property until it is executed.
I just wanted to get worked out smoothly.
Okay, I'm sure it will be.
And so everybody kind of agrees that the right things have been done. Is that your understanding, Chuck?
I have a bit of a concern.
Certainly.
On a project this expansive, I mean, it's probably one of the biggest that's come along. And it hasn't been days or months, it's been a long time.
Correct.
And just from my standpoint, I think that I committed that without a development agreement being signed, I wasn't going to support it. And I think we're days away, and I don't think that a PUD of this magnitude should have a contingency next to it. It's my opinion.
Any other comments for the petitioner?
What would, if this were delayed 2 weeks, I mean, is that acceptable until we have the signed development agreement? Does that cause some hardships for the Wheeler family or for this development? Or for the city? I mean, I don't.
It could have potential hardship for the city.
The Plan Commission's approval will have told it 60 days, and it'll be approved anyway.
Okay. So the contingency, us approving it with a contingency is better than just letting it be approved.
Correct.
Well, without the agreement, the PUD doesn't exist, in other words.
Two things. The legislative process isn't completed because the contingency wasn't met.
Right.
Second of all, without the city's promises to participate, as the developer agreement outlines, the project couldn't go forward either.
Okay. Thank you, Counselor. Any other comments?
Now I have a question for council. What's the recommended language?
The language.
Yeah. to
Oh,
put in-
I'm sorry, on the motion. Move to approve as recommended by the Plan Commission with the contingency that an executed developer agreement's in place. Or approved with the developer agreement required. I'm trying to think of the easiest way to do that, and I'm missing a couple of words. Sir?
Brian, let's go back. If we would table this tonight, what was the thing with the APC? I missed that specific.
Plan Commission recommendations are merely that. It's a recommendation. However, if the recommendation is positive and no action is done by the council, then it's deemed approved.
After
60
90
days.
days.
90 days.
90
That-
days.
That time will occur before our
For our
next meeting. So that's the issue.
And at that point, the contingency would not be in place.
No. So back to the previous question, I think a motion to approve as presented by the Plan Commission with the additional condition that an executed developer agreement be tendered.
What if it was voted down?
Now?
Yeah.
Then it's done.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. I'd entertain a motion at this time.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 18-04, Wheeler Landing PUD, contingent upon the successful approval of the development agreement
All right,
between the city and the developer.
all right. I have a motion made by Mr. Hoover. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
I have a second by Mr. Horkey. Counselors, any further discussion?
Yeah, I'm thinking. Sometimes that takes a while. Is that language all right?
So if there is not a development agreement is signed by both parties to the agreement, by all parties to the agreement, then this is void, basically.
Is there a time limitation on that? So if no development agreement is finalized, 90 days from the APC, we get to 90 days from the APC, what happens at that point in time?
Okay, the requirement is that the council act. So by acting, the statute's kind of open from there. You can amend it, send it down to the plan commission, you can approve it with a contingency, so you have acted upon the recommendation of the plan commission. So that wouldn't kick in if this motion is adopted.
Okay, so then, let's say no development agreement is arrived at. Then it's possible this could come back to the council to be the judge with the development agreement?
No, sir, I think that what would happen if after a period of time or whenever the council's not comfortable with the length of time of the approval, you can rezone the property or vacate this ordinance.
And if
An
I might,
actual action.
if I might interject too, that we wouldn't be able to process any subsequent petitions. I mean, there's plating, there's development plans, there's we couldn't do any of that without the zoning in place.
I would, please.
When we say all of the parties, there are only two. I have a question for staff. Mr. Bertrand?
Good evening,
Just-
councilors.
Thank you for stepping up. I know that you don't like this, but keep it simple.
I will.
Are you comfortable? It was mentioned that we're 99 whatever, you know?
Yes, sir.
So
So,
are you comfortable with where we are so far? Yes or no?
Yes.
That's all I have.
I would like to remind everyone when we started down this path that one of the conditions the council looked at and was wanting to require is that the road, Oak Ridge Road, be extended to handle additional traffic and resolve some issues. Tournament Trail would be extended at no cost to the city. And I feel that the petitioner here tonight has, once the developer agreement is signed and we have assurance that that will take place, then they have filled a requirement that was very important to all of us in that regard. This has had months to mature, matriculate, and develop. And from this standpoint, I think everybody's worked really hard together to get to this point. And so with the contingency, I'm very comfortable moving forward.
I basically am as well, and one of the things that's rolling around in my mind is whatever it is that constitutes a developer's agreement, it's going to be separate and independent, it's pretty unlikely that whatever it is that happens is going to result in having to go back and revisit something of significance in the PUD as a result of whatever that future document becomes or doesn't become, which to me still says, let's not let the APC recommendation become the governing reason that this exists, and certainly don't want to vote it down. So I think we need to proceed. I'm comfortable with that.
I have just a little different take, and it'd just be something I guess I'd like to see, and perhaps we all would like to see. We're now put in a position where we really have to act tonight, and it would have been nice in future developments or future actions to come before us, if the 90-day clock ticking isn't to the point where we don't have a meeting date in between, so that if something unforeseen comes up, and I don't know what that is, that we have a chance to process that, go back, and then bring it back before us. Understanding what I'm saying with that? It's just a procedural thing, but we're put in a position now where there's an inordinate amount of time and money that's been invested by both parties in this, and we need to act. But if we had 2 weeks to process whatever information might be necessary to process, we would have it. We don't have it now. So I think we're to the point of doing what we need to do based upon all the invested time and money at this point in time. But I'd just like to have that cushion in the future if it's at all possible. Thank you.
Dr. Keene, I think you're absolutely spot on. But the fact of the matter is, they've been told to not bring this forward until there was a signed document. And I've seen us call special meetings on far, far less important issues than this.
Amen.
Any other
I have
comments?
another question. I'm still thinking, please. I'd like to ask Jeremy a question, if that's all right.
Certainly.
Jeremy? Just a quick question.
Sure.
You've been in this for a long time. You've seen this work through, right?
Yes.
Do you know the concerns that we have with the traffic?
Yes.
And anybody that says Grand Park isn't working, they haven't been out there. We've got more traffic problems than we know what to do with.
Mm-hmm.
The agreement that we have, you're fully aware of it.
Todd has been managing the agreement. I have not, since I've only been back for a couple weeks, I'm not as familiar with it, but I have 100% confidence that he's,
It hasn't changed a lot over the
Okay.
many months, is that correct?
as far as I know, yes.
Okay. Do you believe that we're okay in the management? We've got this thing handled, right? If we get or Todd, you're welcome to chime in as well. I just want to make sure this is a big deal.
Understood, yes, and by all accounts, we are in line with where we need to be.
Got it. Thank you very much.
The comments?
I want to ask another question. What, the road, Oak Ridge Road, comes up and goes in by Speedway and straight on out. And it's not, the Oak Ridge Road extension is not shown on this, is that correct?
No, it's on there.
Show me where it is. I don't see it going on through.
So I think this may be a May exhibit. Yeah.
It shows go to the ordinance. There's an exhibit, the first exhibit in the ordinance shows the most recent.
Is that road 4-lane, 2-lane?
I believe it's intended to be a 2-lane with a dedicated turn lane. So,
Dedicated for 4 lanes or just 2?
2 lanes with a dedicated turn lane, correct?
Now you're gonna move traffic in and out of there with the volumes that seem to be going out of there without a 4-lane road.
We do it regularly all around the city. So if you look at Springville Road, it's currently 2-lane. This will have the turn, traffic being turned and slowing and stopping is what causes the problem. If we have a dedicated turn lane, you don't slow the movement.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Yeah, I'm pretty comfortable with the design of the road. I don't think that's the problem. We've discussed several options with how that's gonna tee in, whether that comes around a little bit more abrupt or if there's a roundabout there. Those are the details that'll get worked out, so I'm okay with that if our contingency works.
I really think, we could have how much time do we have if we decided to have a special meeting?
The 30th.
Would they give us enough time to advertise and do it?
Yes.
What would that accomplish, Joe?
I don't know, we might get the agreement signed anyhow.
We don't. Zoning's no good.
All right. Any further discussion?
I call for the question.
Thank you. All right. Will clerk please call the roll? We have a motion before us and a second.
Jim Egg,
Yes.
Chuck Lehman,
Yes.
Bob Corkay,
Yes.
Steve Hoover,
Yes.
Joe Edwards,
No.
Mark King.
Yes.
All right.
It's 5-1.
Thank you. Thank you, counselors. The next item on the agenda is ordinance 18-33, Grand Park Village, PUD Amendment 2, Charlestown. We'll let the room clear out a minute, Dane, and then we'll start. All right, Dane?
Good evening, council. For the record, Dane Crabtree with the Economic and Community Development Department. The item for you this evening is ordinance 18-33, a proposed amendment to the Grand Park Village PUD, known as Charlestown at Grand Park Village. It's a property on the west side of Wheeler Road, north of the intersection of Grand Park Boulevard. As you may recall from its introduction on August 13th, the proposed amendment proposes modifications to design theme, density, and parking and landscaping standards to accommodate a multifamily development. The proposal remains unchanged since that time. This item had its public hearing on September 4th, received a favorable recommendation at the September 17th Advisory Plan Commission meeting, and is available for adoption consideration this evening. Mike Roan from Freeman Development Corporation is present this evening. He does not plan to make a presentation, but is available for questions you may have, and I'm available if there are questions of staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Dane. Any questions for staff or petitioner? Seeing none, hearing none, I'd entertain a motion.
Move to approve ordinance 18-33.
A motion by Dr. Keene, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Chuck Lehman. Any council discussion on this matter?
Yeah, just let it be known that even though there's not much discussion, this is a big one too, because this is just gonna put more traffic out there, but it's gonna be a big deal. It's gonna help that area a lot. But these are some of our concerns on why we're so emphatic about the other things.
Thank you, Chuck, for those comments. Any others? Hearing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Chuck Lehman,
Yes.
Bob Corkay,
Yes.
Steve Hoover,
Yes.
Joe Edwards,
Yes.
Mark King,
Yes.
Jim Egg.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you. Ordinance 18-36, amending the traffic regulations. Jeremy Lawler, welcome back, sir.
Thank you. Good evening. For the record, Jeremy Lawler, Director of Public Works. For you tonight for adoption considerations, ordinance 18-36, was introduced on September 10th, the last meeting. There have been no comments or changes, so it is as introduced. This is our semi-annual traffic ordinance amendment that adopts our new roads from subdivisions. When we do this, we like to include some of our changes to traffic patterns, speed limit, et cetera, for safety purposes. I know you went over those the last time. I'm happy to answer any questions about those if you had specific ones, but other than that.
Thank you. I looked them over this afternoon, before. Any other questions for Jeremy?
I just have a comment that I think this is just such a nice thing to do, to take a comprehensive look at the entire township, or this entire city, and adjust speeds up and down, based upon traffic patterns and everything. So it's really good for the community to have this kind of detailed work done.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any others? I'd entertain a motion.
Move to approve ordinance 1836, amending our traffic regulations of the city of Westfield.
I have a motion by Mr. Horky to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Hoover. Any further discussion? Hearing none, will you please call the roll, Bev?
Bob Cortez,
Yes.
Steve Hoover,
Yes.
Joe Edwards,
Yes.
Mark Key,
Yes?
Jim Egg,
Yes.
Joe Clayman.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to new business, we have ordinance 18-37 to consider, the city of Westfield transferring funds. Mr. Zager.
Yes, sir, this was requested by the clerk's office and is a rather administrative function. What she would like to do is take two fire funds that are being managed separately and combine them into one. No additional monies are moved, no additional monies are required.
Pretty simple. Simplifies things over there, one less account to deal with. And they're very similar in nature. Any other comments? It's only a council introduction tonight, so we'll see it back in October. Ordinance 18-42, the 2019 budget. Tammy and Todd presenting tonight.
Good evening, councilors. I believe we have these for public distribution. Have you already received this one pager? All right, very good. Before I get started, I must pay recognition to all of our department heads and their respective teams, as well as Tammy Havard, who will join me in the podium, and John Rogers. As you know, this is an annual exercise that is a complex and heavy lift to remain in a sustainable position that this council and the mayor's office has set upon as far back as 2008. And we believe that what we're presenting to you this evening represents a fiscally sound financial operating budget that meets the growing demands of a growing city. And we focus every day as a workforce of approximately 220 souls to add enhancing the quality of life for this community. And I think we're doing a really good job at that. While it's not certainly perfection, we strive every day for continuous improvement to bring these sorts of things to our community and the citizens and visitors. And those are some highlights. I won't read them verbatim. You all are keenly aware and well aware of these metrics and accolades that we've been recognized. And we played host, as you well know, to our first year of training camp with Indianapolis Colts. And I cannot be more proud of the women and men that helped make that happen. So as a result, and I think I know Councilor Lehman, you mentioned it earlier about the sports campus and how it's driving, by our metrics today, approximately $700 million in economic development and or growth. Our school corporation is strong, and our fire department, as you have recently been informed, has achieved an ISO rating that's improved this entire community, the incorporated and unincorporated components. And so safety certainly is our number one priority. And so with that bracketed statement, that is an internal mission statement of why we show up to work every day is to enhance or enhancing the quality of life through exceptional service, integrity, and commitment. And we take that mantra very seriously. That's our purpose that we stand in. And what you will see in this budget presentation is we've maintained a flat tax rate we're proposing for 2019. Let me say that again. We're proposing a flat tax rate as we lean into 2019. And I'm proud of our team for being able to do that. Things are on our side, a growing economy, and most importantly, a sustainable budget, reaching, as you well know, with the efforts of Financial Services Group, Greg Garatas, whom you will have a workshop with, a public workshop next week. I believe it's next week?
Yes.
Yeah, October 1st, I believe.
10 a.m.
The sustainability analysis in our report. So I think with that, am I to your slides yet? 2 more. All right, very good. She's got the script. This is an important slide. If I draw a note that Tammy pulled together some comparative analysis of cities like-sized, 30 to 50,000 in population here in the great state of Indiana. And you can see where we land relative to that as in a tax rate comparison. It's an important benchmark or metric that we measure ourselves by, and quite frankly, the community measures us by. So that gives you a wide range from Maryville in the region to Mishawaka to Columbus, Indiana, a larger city than we are, and obviously home to Cummins. And so bring it closer to home and our neighbors. These are the 2018 tax rates. And as you can see, certainly we're slightly higher than our friends to the south, Cicero and Fishers, and you can see along to the right hand of our metric there, our column. So with that, I would like to turn this podium over to Tammy Havard. You're very familiar. She works tirelessly in pulling all these numbers together and with great ease. And I'll let her walk you through our exercise.
Could you go back to that previous slide?
I
just
sure
1
can,
second?
sir.
So are those proposed, that's our proposed rate for this year, but we know that
So
those other communities, those are their proposed rates
Not proposed. These are the 2018 rates as they sit today.
as they sit today.
They are certified tax rates, and we, as you will see, we will maintain this rate going into 2019 as our proposed rate.
Right, right. And the reason I asked that question is because Fishers had in the paper that they were going up .45.
I've seen that
Cents.
same media information.
That's why I asked the question. Thank you.
Very well.
Hello, council members. So this is great. This is my 10th year doing the budget, so it's been a fun ride. Yes, 10 years. So today, we're going to talk about our budget presentation for 2019. And as you all are aware, this starts well before now. We start in May with the department heads and work with the departments to get their expense budgets in. We refine the revenues and expenses, meet with our outside consultant, and then get the information to you all today. So today is the 24th, and we will have our introduction. This is just an introduction, and again, this process is long, and we want to make sure that you all have the information that you need in order to make your decisions. On the 27th, which is Thursday, we will notice our public hearing in Gateway, which is the Department of Local Government Finance, the state website. And anyone can sign up at that website to get any notices published by any unit of government in Indiana. And then next Monday, so 1 week from today, we will have a budget workshop with our financial consultant, Greg Garatas. And we've done this the past few years, and I think it's been really great because it goes beyond just the Department of Local Government property tax supported funds. it goes into all of the other funds managed by the city. And we go through the sustainability plan, which I think is very important. People talk about balanced budget, but really sustainable budget is what we stress. If you relate budgets to your personal finances, you save for things. And so in 1 year, you might have expenses that exceed your revenues, but that doesn't mean that you're mismanaging your funds. You are making good decisions and planning out the future plans. After the workshop, 1 week after that will be the public hearing at our regular council meeting. And then we will have the adoption consideration at the meeting after that at the city council on October 22nd. After that, we send our information to the state and they work their magic and then get us a budget that we can then implement. Their goal for this year is to get it to us before December 31st. We have a GEO bond that you will see on the agenda, so that may delay things slightly, but it still should be early, hopefully. This is something new that they're doing, and we would be very happy to see our budget that early before the next budget year. Note that when we publish the public notice on Gateway, those are advertised rates, and that's the same for other local units of government. So the levy numbers that you see are artificially inflated because, again, the state, we don't have finalized numbers of everything, and a lot can happen between now and then. So we have to leave something in there to make sure that we can still maintain the tax rate that we need in order to run our operations. Also, in that Gateway portal with our state submitted information, there are tax caps, which are basically the difference between what your tax bill would be and what it actually is, what you'll see on your bill, due to the state law that says homeowners, for instance, are capped at 1% of their assessed value, of their gross assessed value. So what the city budget will mean to a homeowner in 2019, their tax bill, excluding the voter-approved referendums, will be about $2,000 because it's capped at 1% of that gross assessed value. And out of that $2,000, we're estimating that we'll collect about $650 of those dollars. And the remainder of that money will go to the schools, the township, the county solid waste district, and the library. So with that $650, that's just one of our revenue streams. So that would be under the taxes. And if you all recall, in May we launched OpenGov, which is our online transparency portal for the city. So in OpenGov, before this adoption process is over, you guys and the public will be able to see our 2019 proposed budget. And this is the first time that we'll be doing that, so we hope that we get good reception on that. Of these funds that you see on the left-hand side, the general and the fire fund, which are our main operating funds, as well as the motor vehicle highway, cumulative capital development, debt service funds like the GEO bonds and our public safety building debt, as well as rainy day, the CUME Capital Improvement Fund, and local road and street. Those ones will have revenues that we're projecting for $39 million approximately in revenue and expenses in 2019. So as Todd mentioned, we will have a balanced budget. For these property tax supported funds, our revenues will exceed our expenses. So those taxes represent about 90% of those funds, of the revenue that we receive. And of that, in OpenGov, one of the features is that you can drill down. So of the taxes that we receive, you can see property taxes is about 50% of that. And then we receive other types of revenue to support the operations. We receive the county option income tax, which is now called LIT, which is local income tax, and that comes off of income taxes. We also receive food and beverage taxes. Grand Park is generating a lot of the restaurant business, and we've seen an increase in our food and beverage there. So our 2019 budget. Again, Todd mentioned that our tax rate will be flat for 2019. So we're able to accomplish additional goals of about $3 million while keeping the tax rate flat. So we'll talk about public safety, economic development, Grand Park, Grand Junction, and Todd will talk about talent attraction and retention as part of the main focus of the reasons why our budget would be increasing in 2019. In public safety, as you guys know, we currently have 2 school resource officers. In 2019, we will put an additional 2 officers in the schools, as well as add a 4th K-9 unit. We also have in the 2019 budget 3 new police patrol officers. They're budgeted each at half a year, but the police will determine based on their needs how to split that appropriation throughout the year. We also have a new fire leadership program, which is an innovative program that uses existing staff to give opportunities for succession planning, leadership, and training. Economic development. It's been a renewed focus that we want economic development broken out and to have dedication towards that department. So you will see a new department, a renewed department. As you know, it was a department in 2008 to 2012 and has since been combined under economic and community development. That will now be its own department and split out in the general fund in 2019. Grand Park, it's ever evolving. And in 2019, we are going to break it out in the general fund. We've had several members of the community ask for that level of transparency, and with the tool of OpenGov, we are now able to do that. So in the 2019 budget, you will see Grand Park broken out into the indoor department, the event center, as well as the outdoor department within the general fund. We are also going to fund capital improvements using the 2019 budget. We will have Jersey Street Commons, the reconstruction of it from Mill to Union Street. And so we're excited to see continued progress in the Grand Junction area. You can see there's also State Road 32 and Westfield Boulevard connector, which are other areas that are going to be in the 2019 budget. And then with that, I will turn it over to Todd.
Thank you, Tammy. It's a special note as well, as we used what's commonly referred to, Councilor Edwards, as the Beta Group. I call it the Larry Clarino Group. They also were convened to give input on how to format this presentation. And so we really took their input to heart on how to compile all this complex data. So with the panel you're looking at now, talent attraction and retention, the front line of success for any organization, but albeit public or private, is people. I've stood before you mentioning that we commissioned a study of our compensation. That study is underway with the Archer Group. They are no strangers to Hamilton County, and they perform this sort of work across the nation. We don't have their final work product, but we do have almost an in-state product where we took our current gross salary numbers and based upon a scientific methodology with an algebraic equation, ranked those job functions and their level of complexity based upon the input that the people in our workforce, how they responded to that particular survey. So that established a minimum, a midpoint, and a maximum. And what we have found, or what that study has found, at least at this stage, is there are some people that are well below that minimum threshold, approximately 15 people in their positions. The lion's share of our workforce is somewhere over the min and somewhere between the min and the max. And there's a group of people that the study has indicated that they're over the maximum. So what we have thoughtfully worked through for this budget presentation, and you will receive more specificity when we get to the salary ordinance, because we're going to kind of break the whole salary ordinance down and rebuild it, because there's, as Bev can attest, there's some misalignment based on the payroll sheet and what the salary ordinance reflects in that of titles. So we want to remove the confusion with that. So what we are going to propose to you in the salary ordinance is a 3% across the board, but also right-sizing those 15 people and bring them inside the minimum column. It's important to note that, and we'll get into, not this evening, but when we have a final work product from the Archer Company, that there was a market analysis, not only in this area, but in other locales that are of like makeup of Westfield from a socioeconomic standpoint, college education, mean income, et cetera, and there was an internal analysis of comparative analysis for job classifications. So it's a holistic view of where we are and going to be using it as a guidepost. But using the resources that we have available, you've seen we have revenues of $39 million, we have expenses of $39 million. We're going to fit that increase into our capacity. That 3% number comes from what is going on around us from a competitive standpoint. And again, talent attraction and retention is a key component. So I think I'm going to round this out. Is that correct? So bearing in mind a flat tax rate going into 2019, there's our cadence of approval and steps, and what we have represented here, and we'll put this on the city's website after this evening, first thing tomorrow, as a guidepost. But there are 3, 4, 5 references there that people can access by way of the World Wide Web, our OpenGov transparency portal, our gateway, which is managed and maintained by the state of Indiana, the Department of Local Government and Finance, where all these forms are uploaded to with benchmarks of time, and then other state resources, understanding property taxes and tax bills. So with that, we'll field your questions on this introductory maneuver. Happy to scroll back to any slide that catches your interest.
I don't have any questions on the presentation, but a couple things I just like for the workshop so that we're not scrambling when we get to the workshop. And that would be probably what the school corporation and what the county are projecting to be their actual tax rates. I know everybody has to advertise high, but everybody also knows probably where they're going to land, just so we have a discussion about that. And then I'd also, just when we talk about sustainability, what is projected perhaps for public safety over the next couple of years, not just this year, because we want to make sure that we are also positioned to grow into those additional needs, and at least talk about them. So those 2 things I'd like to see for the workshop for our discussion purposes.
Well, at our workshop, I will have both public safety chiefs at the ready. I can tell you that it's an ongoing conversation and trying to look under Chief Reed's leadership, exploring different models of staffing deployment, because as we all know, the human capital is the most expensive portion of our portfolio of any business unit. But we'll have the chiefs at the ready to answer any questions that you may have at the workshop. Right, chiefs? Right, good, thank you.
So we do work closely with the schools during the budget process and get that information, like the tax rate. We also do collaboration on, we buy paper from the schools and fuel from their bus barn. They buy salt from us, and our vehicles, when we're getting ready to trade them in, we go to the schools and see if they would like them. So we do have a great relationship with the schools, so I can give you that information right now. The schools, they expect their tax rate to be about 1.31, and the referendums, the operating one at 0.2, and the capital one at 0.2043.
Capital 2043?
That's the latest that I've heard. And then I will get the answer on the county for you.
Other questions the council may have?
Not a question necessarily, but a comment. You know, trying to be transparent. I think we've done an outstanding job maintaining that tax rate, considering that it's just not about the numbers, it's how we get those revenues. And we're having a more difficult time, and we'll share this as we go, but even from the state, the funding formulas, not only are there changing in schools and so forth, but we have these county taxes and what the fees that we have to pay for our 911. So it's really changing. So I think it's remarkable that we've been able to hold our tax rate even.
So noted.
Yeah, if I could comment on that, one of the questions I made the mistake of asking John and Tammy the other day is, well, is this budget balanced? And they looked at me like, don't use the word balanced. Balanced means we spend as much as we take in over 1 year. They want to use the word, it is sustainable, because they look at a 5-year picture, so that we can say every year, this is a balanced budget. But if we don't look down the road and do what anticipation that we need to do, of course, there are always surprises thrown in by changes in state funding, et cetera, but these people look at a 5-year projection when we're bringing these forward. So don't ask them if it's balanced.
I think it's important to note, too, I do make this comment every year. Prior to 2008, this community was in a deficit spending cycle, meaning there was no cash operating balance. That is not true and has not been true for a decade. So when folks see that there's perhaps anywhere from $4 to $5 million of a cash balance, that's to keep the bills and stay in the black and not have to borrow money to make payroll, whereas this community used to do that, and we no longer do that. We have a strong rainy day fund that we're going to add another $250,000 for, and all this is in preparation for the unknowns that if the economy takes a downturn, we'll be able to stay afloat. So there's no deficit spending in this particular budget.
Thank you, Todd. Thank you, Tammy, for all the hard work. Next item on the agenda is the ordinance 1843, and it's the 2018 GEO bond. Todd?
So this particular ordinance is part of our budgetary cadence. I'll take it.
Sure.
From tax management strategy. It's a GEO bond. You're familiar with that. We use these proceeds to buy hard assets such as police cars, fire trucks, dump trucks, and things of that nature. We've used this now our fourth year, and I think 3 million. So this year we're proposing a $3 million general obligation bond that will also include some road projects, that of, help me with the Jersey Street Commons, and then any matches that we need to take on the Poplar Street extension. Is that correct?
Yeah, MPO projects in general.
MPO projects in general. Still maintaining that 79-cent tax rate. So this is an introduction tonight. We'll have a public hearing on October 8th and adoption consideration on the 22nd of October. In conjunction with that, if I may just kind of talk about these together. Your ordinance 1846, which is another annual instrument or exercise you undertake, is appropriating those proceeds of that said bond. Again, it tracks right along with the introduction, the hearing, and the consideration for adoption in sequence with the bond itself.
All right,
Did I mention all at a 79-cent tax rate?
I think you did.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you. All right, we've seen the GEO bond strategy, and we've used it in the past very successfully. Any questions for Mr. Rod? This time. All right. That concludes our regular business tonight. If residents who wish to address the council at this time may do so on items not on the agenda. If you come forward, please state your name and address for the record.
I'm Mick Mead, I live in Westfield. I have been privileged to be volunteering at Grand Park, Westfield's world-renowned industry. I drive people, visitors who need help. It is amazing what people have to say about that place. They love it. They can't believe we put something so great together. There is a call now for more volunteers. And if anybody in the room, we don't have many left, knows somebody who would like to volunteer, you may talk to Angie or Bailey or others that work out there. It's fun. 2.5-hour shifts driving a golf cart and helping people that need it, people who are late, people who are lame. So it's a good activity. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Mick. Anyone else like to address the council at this time? All right, hearing none. City council comments, do you have anything from Plan Commission, Steve?
Plan Commission met last Monday. We had just 2 items of business. One was the Charlestown at Grand Park Village, which was sent to this body with a favorable recommendation, and we acted on that earlier this evening. The other, we had a consent agenda that we approved that included detailed development plans for Westfield High School addition, Charlestown at Grand Park Village, and Grassy Branch Marketplace, Lot 2. That was our meeting.
Very good. Any other council comments? All right, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Ake. I had really just, I guess, about 3 things to bring up. We had a session, a conference earlier this week out at the Cambria Hotel put on by our Hamilton County Hand. Our former Jennifer Miller, who led this agency, leads this agency, and it was very timely discussion of attainable, affordable housing, whatever term we are going forward with, and it was very enlightening to hear from other communities, to hear about what needs to be done, and I'm very proud to see the city and the council to support our efforts. We've got a couple other ideas coming up, so thank you for getting behind that move. I think it will pay off greatly in the future of this city. We touched briefly in the budget on school security, and I know, thank you with working with the schools and Chief Rush and his remarkable people as we implemented really a couple programs I think that even other corporations are beginning to look at, as not only did we're in the process of adding some additional school resource officers, but more importantly is, in my opinion, are the number of school visits that our officers are now making as a concerted effort to have more presence, to, frankly, bad guys, this is not a very good place for you to be. In the month of August alone, we had 242 school visits by our officers. And in their new, and I think a very unique program of establishing substations within our schools and encouraging our officers to write their reports instead of in their cars somewhere, do it in the building, leave your car parked out in front, visit in the school. And there were some 47 of those visits made just in the month of August alone. And I think I've heard several parents tell me that they love nothing more than to see our officers around their schools. And I can tell also by the statistics on crime and so on that looked at over the last couple months, actually crime is still decreasing. I don't know how low we can get it, but they're approaching that, I can tell you. So I'm very happy with the direction that the school security issue is going. You know, we've upgraded, our IT department has upgraded all of our officers and their cars to have access to all of the school cameras, which wasn't the case a few years ago. So there's been the updates and technology in order to do that, and we've been able to take great advantage of that. So I think we're making some progress. Lastly, we had a huge weekend, social activities last weekend. We had not only a very large fundraiser for youth assistance, courtesy of the Venatas out on the west side, who opened up their farm, their Blackberry Farm, a beautiful facility. I hadn't been back in there yet, but they had an outstanding fundraiser for our Westfield Youth Assistance. And at the very same time, and I did catch some flack for this, but I haven't figured out how to be the calendar fairy to totally prevent contradictions, but we had the DWA with Teresa Skelton and her gang of volunteers, a highly successful dinner on Union Street. Over 300, I believe, plates were prepared and went, 400 feet up and down Union Street. And it was a beautiful evening, great entertainment. And if anybody asks you what in the world is there to do in Westfield, you can tell them quite a bit. And this week, continuing, of course, is our homecoming week. So we'll have the parade and the big games and everything else. So a lot going on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At this point in time, if there are no objections, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Bob Horkaves made a motion, second by Mr. Hoover, I believe. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. We stand adjourned. Thank you.